So I wanted to just sort of talk with you about what you're doing at the Population Media Center, to understand sort of, how you're approaching this population question and what your take is and what your recommendations are.
Sure. Basically, sorry, I'm just figuring out exactly where to start. So Population Media Center uses long-running dramas on radio and television to educate people about various social and health issues. We're most interested in promoting the status of women, encouraging the use of family planning, and really giving people the tools to, make healthy decisions for their own lives and to make knowledgeable decisions. They learn a lot through the characters' trials and tribulations and the consequences or the rewards they get from their own actions. So it's really kind of this observational learning and learning through role models, and because of the emotional bonds one develops with the characters in these programs and the stories that play out usually over several years, we're able to affect behavior change. The reason that we use, so again, Population Media Center, our mission is to really bring population into balance with the Earth's resources so everyone can live, healthy lives and have, access to, clean water and food and, the basic resources we all need to survive, and then also be able to provide, certainly in many developing countries, they just can't even keep up infrastructure-wise, and, they can't provide for their current populations in terms of healthcare and schools and all that, let alone keeping up with the tremendous growth that's happening. So what we look at is really increasing people's, changing people's behavior to improve the status of women. Generally, that's the number one thing that someone can do by sending girls to school, providing them with opportunities, and not, delaying the age of marriage and childbearing until adulthood, and until they want to have children and can choose how many children they want. So really our programs, seek to make all of those things happen. And, there's, in the world now, I think, there's about 200,000 unplanned pregnancies each year, but then there's also a huge number of pregnancies that are occurring because desired family size is still quite high in many of these countries, and the age at which women are being married off is young, and childbearing is occurring at a very young age as well. Now, PMC believes that, again, at the core of our mission is never telling anyone what to do. It's simply showing the various options and what the outcomes of those choices may be, and how to, and, so if you show, what it looks like for a girl, say, from northern Nigeria to go to school, get an education, and, be provided, start her own small business, and what her life might look like, or to be married off at 12 years old and start giving birth, and the challenges of, pregnancy at that age, and on her own body, and some of the challenges of, trying to provide for very large families.
What are some of the obstacles that you're facing? Are these cultural issues?
Absolutely. The number one, and the reason that we do what we do is that only a very small percentage, if you look at the demographic and health surveys from several countries around the world, those especially with the highest fertility rates, you'll see that unmet need, but access to services is only cited as a very, very small percentage of the reason people aren't using modern contraceptives. The number one, or the most frequently cited reasons are male opposition, cultural reasons, fatalism, the belief that, God determined at the beginning of the universe how many children one would have. And really, has much more to do with societal and cultural issues. So what we try to role model and create is a dialogue around where people can, discuss these issues and see for themselves what, their options might be, and, helping to break down those barriers So even role modeling spousal communication, so a wife can talk with her husband about how many children they want to have and when, and plan their families versus, just assuming that because, for years no one's used birth control that it's a bad thing. Even if, because many of these women often don't want to have more children, yet they don't think there's anything they can do to determine how many children they have. So again, it's allowing them to really kind of determine their own, destiny, and to give them the tools in order to make the right choices.
And is that the rank, when you talk about the different sort of obstacles that you face, was that in the order? Was male opposition the number one reason?
It varies from every demographic and health survey, but those are kind of the top ones. Oh, and fear of side effects is also another one. But those tend to be like the top four, and it varies what the percentage is and exactly which order. But certainly, those are, and I can provide you with numbers, via email for some of the specific countries we work in that will provide you with that specific breakdown.
That could be helpful. And I'm just curious, with populations growing, how are you measuring success?
Sure. The way that we measure success is on a number of different levels. We do pre- and post-broadcast surveys. So we look at desired family size, contraceptive use, knowledge about contraceptives, various beliefs about the status of women, both pre- and post-broadcast, and we look at the difference between, what people knew and believed prior to our program going on the air and after our program goes on the air. And we've seen significant differences in knowledge on contraceptives and condom use, people's beliefs around the status of women, and several other issues shift dramatically. We also compare listeners and non-listeners that are surveyed after the program is on the air. Another thing that we do is ongoing monitoring during the time the program is on the air. So we actually conduct exit interviews at clinics around the countries where we're broadcasting these programs. And at the end of the programs, particularly where we're dealing with, an important, say someone finally makes a decision to go to a clinic, and we say, so at the end of the program, there'll be an epilogue saying, like, if you too want to be like this character, call this number, or, go to this website to get information about the clinic. And so then we ask the clinics to administer exit interviews and find out why people came in. So they'll, it's just kind of your standard interview. Well, what motivated you to come in? And what we found is that a huge number of new people seeking family planning are citing our program as the main motivating factor for coming to seek services. For instance, in Nigeria, we saw that 33% of women at all the clinics surveyed cited our program as the reason they were seeking services. In Ethiopia, we saw that it was 26% cited the program by name. We've seen that in Rwanda, in several of the countries that we've worked in. And again, I can provide you some additional statistics that will highlight how these programs have been impactful in each of these countries. So that's kind of the direct behavioral change. Like, we're seeing an increase in the number of people using family planning directly because of this program. So I think that's very telling. And then, of course, we also do qualitative research focus groups and interviews to use research triangulation and better understand why, kind of what people's experiences were, why they liked the program, and how the program influenced them.
That's great. This is so helpful.